The whisper of innocence. Keanu Reeves stepped into the dimly lit KFC, the scent of fried chicken blending with the quiet hum of the soda machines. Dressed in a simple black hoodie and in jeans, he looked like any other exhausted customer grabbing a late-night meal. The day had been long. Another stretch of filming under the unrelenting lights, his body tired, his mind drifting between thoughts. The restaurant was nearly empty. A couple sat near the window, chatting softly, and a few employees cleaned up in the background. But what caught his eye were two little girls sitting alone at a corner table. Their small hands gripped the edges of their plastic trays, their eyes darting around as if expecting something bad to happen. Each time someone walked past, they flinched slightly. Something was wrong. Keanu wasn't one to ignore such things. He grabbed his order and made his way toward them, his every step cautious. As he got closer, the girls hushed their whispers, their gazes fixed on the table as if they were afraid to be noticed. "Hey there," Keanu said gently, kneeling to their eye level. "Are you two waiting for someone?" The older girl, who looked about 10, hesitated before nodding. "Our mom," she whispered. Keanu glanced around. There was no sign of an adult watching them. His instincts told him something wasn't right. "How long have you been waiting?" The younger girl, maybe 6, clutched a crumpled napkin in her tiny hands. "A long time," she mumbled. Keanu's chest tightened. He had seen too many tragic stories in his life. He knew what neglect looked like, and something about this situation sent a chill down his spine. "Do you want me to call someone for you?" he asked. The older girl hesitated again. Then, in the faintest whisper, she said something that made Keanu's breath hitch. "She told us not to talk to anyone. But you're him." Keanu blinked. "Me?" The little girl nodded, her tiny fingers tracing invisible patterns on the table. "Mom said if we ever saw Keanu Reeves, we should tell him." She paused, swallowing hard. "That the world is still beautiful." A lump formed in Keanu's throat. He wasn't sure he had heard right. Why would she say that? The older girl looked around nervously before she leaned in and whispered, "Because she knew you'd understand." Keanu's heart pounded. Something unspoken lingered in the air. Before he could ask more, the younger girl's eyes filled with tears. "She said you're kind, that you know what sadness feels like." Keanu felt his own eyes sting. He had spent years carrying loss, his best friend, his love, even his unborn child. He had walked through sorrow, yet still, he tried to see the beauty in life. He took a deep breath and gently asked, "Where is your mom?" The older girl glanced at the restaurant door, her lips trembling. She said she'd be right back. But that was a long time ago. Keanu looked around. No mother, no guardian. Just two frightened little girls left waiting in a fast food restaurant past midnight. His jaw clenched. He couldn't walk away from this. "Do you have a phone?" The older girl shook her head. Keanu pulled out his own and hesitated. Who should he call? The police? Child services? Would that even help? Just then, the restaurant door swung open, and a woman stumbled inside. Her hair was disheveled, her eyes wild with panic. She spotted the girls and rushed toward them, collapsing into their embrace. "I'm so sorry," she sobbed, pressing kisses to their heads. "I didn't mean to be gone so long." Keanu stood, watching the raw desperation in her face. This wasn't abandonment. This was something else. The woman looked up, her face streaked with tears, and her breath hitched when she saw him. "Oh my God," she whispered. "It's you." Keanu frowned. "Do I know you?" She shook her head, gripping her daughters as if she'd lose them again. "No, but I've been waiting for you." His breath caught. "What do you mean?" She wiped her tears and whispered, "I left them here because I was trying to save them, and you're the only one who can help us." A chill ran down Keanu's spine. He had stepped into that KFC for a meal. Instead, he had stumbled into a story far bigger than he could have imagined. And something told him, this was just the beginning. Shadows of the past. Keanu Reeves stood frozen in place, his mind racing as the woman clutched her two daughters tightly, her body trembling as though she had been running from something or someone. The restaurant's artificial lighting cast long shadows against the walls, and the quiet hum of the soda machines became deafening in the thick silence that followed her words. I left them here because I was trying to save them, and you're the only one who can help us. Keanu wasn't sure what to make of it. He had encountered many people in his life, some lost, some broken, some desperate, but there was something about the woman's eyes, the sheer weight of fear behind them, that made his pulse quicken. He lowered his voice so only she could hear. What do you mean? Who are you running from? The woman looked around nervously, as if expecting someone to burst through the door at any second. The older girl held onto her mother's sleeve, and the younger one buried her face against her chest, silent tears staining her mother's coat. Keanu knew fear when he saw it, and this woman, whoever she was absolutely terrified. I don't have time to explain everything here, she whispered urgently, but I need to get them somewhere safe. Please. Keanu glanced at the employees behind the counter. A young cashier was wiping down a table, pretending not to eavesdrop. The couple by the window had finished their meal and were getting up to leave. No one seemed to notice the tension crackling in the air. Something told him this woman wouldn't have left her children unless she had no choice. All right, Keanu said softly. Let's get out of here first. The woman hesitated, gripping her daughters even tighter, then nodded. Keanu led them out of the restaurant into the cold Los Angeles night, the neon glow of streetlights casting eerie halos on the damp pavement, a night full of questions. As they walked toward his car, Keanu noticed the woman constantly looking over her shoulder, her hands trembling as she pulled her daughters close. Keanu unlocked the door to his black SUV and gestured for them to get inside. He could see her hesitation, getting into a stranger's car, even if that stranger was Keanu Reeves, wasn't an easy decision. Look, he said gently, I'm not here to hurt you. I just want to help. She exhaled sharply, then nodded. I know. That's why I left them there. Because I knew if you saw them, you wouldn't just walk away. That sent a shiver down Keanu's spine. The woman and her daughters climbed into the car. As soon as he shut the door behind them, he glanced around one last time. The streets were mostly empty, but something felt off. He got into the driver's seat, turning on the engine as he glanced at the woman through the rearview mirror. What's your name? He asked. She hesitated before whispering, Mia. And your daughters? The older girl answered softly, I'm Lily. She's Ellie. Keanu nodded. Okay, Mia. Tell me, what exactly are you running from? For a long moment, Mia didn't answer. She just held on to her daughters as if letting go would mean losing them forever. Then, in a voice so quiet it was almost drowned out by the car engine, she said, My husband. Keanu's grip tightened on the steering wheel. He had seen this before. The signs were all there, the fear, the secrecy, the constant looking over her shoulder. Did he? Mia nodded quickly, cutting him off. Yes, and not just me. Keanu's blood ran cold. He glanced at the two little girls in the backseat. Lily, the older one, was staring out the window, her tiny hands clenched into fists. Ellie was curled into her mother's side, her small frame trembling. Keanu exhaled slowly. Do you have anywhere safe to go? Mia shook her head. He knows everyone I know. I had to disappear. I thought I could leave them at the KFC just long enough to make sure I wasn't being followed. But then, she swallowed. I didn't know how to come back. Keanu understood. She wasn't just running. She was surviving. He turned onto a quieter road, trying to think. He had the resources to help, but this wasn't as simple as just offering her a hotel room. If her husband was dangerous, then she needed something more, something permanent. The shadows that follow. As Keanu drove, Mia suddenly stiffened, her eyes locked on the rearview mirror. There. Her voice was sharp. That black car. It's been following us since we left. Keanu didn't turn his head, but he flicked his eyes to the mirror. A sleek, dark sedan trailed behind them, headlights dim but unmistakable. His mind immediately went into high alert. He made a sharp right turn at the next light. The black car followed. Mia sucked in a sharp breath. Keanu clenched his jaw. Hold on. He hit the gas, making another sudden left, then switched lanes rapidly. The black sedan stayed behind them, moving just as aggressively. Lily grabbed her mother's arm. "Mom, I'm scared." "It's okay," Keanu said, his voice calm despite the adrenaline pumping through him. "I got this." Mia's breathing was ragged. It's him, or his people. Keanu's mind raced. He needed to lose them. Fast. He took another sharp turn down a narrow alley, barely squeezing between two parked cars. The sedan hesitated, then sped up, still trailing them. Keanu's heart pounded. He had to end this now. Up ahead, he spotted a parking garage. Without hesitation, he turned sharply into it, driving up to the third level before suddenly pulling into a dark corner and cutting the engine. Silence filled the car. Mia covered Ellie's mouth to muffle her small, frightened breaths. Lily squeezed her mother's hand. Keanu watched the entrance in the mirror, his own pulse pounding in his ears. The black sedan slowed as it entered the garage. Mia's grip on her daughters tightened. For a few agonizing seconds, the car crept forward, its headlights scanning the garage. Keanu held his breath. Then, the sedan suddenly accelerated and sped out of the exit. Mia gasped, her body sagging in relief. Keanu exhaled. We lost them. For now. Mia's eyes were still wide with fear. They won't stop. Keanu turned in his seat, looking her straight in the eye. Then we don't stop either. He didn't know what he had gotten himself into. But one thing was certain, he wasn't walking away. Not from them. Not now. Nowhere left to run. The tension inside the car was suffocating. The dimly lit parking garage offered them temporary safety, but Keanu Reeves knew it wouldn't last. The black sedan had sped off. But that didn't mean they were safe. Not by a long shot. Maya still clutched her daughters tightly, her breath shallow and uneven. Lily, the older one, was eerily quiet, her gaze distant, as if she had been through this too many times before. Ellie, the younger girl, whimpered softly against her mother's chest, her tiny fingers gripping Mia's coat with all the strength her little hands could muster. Keanu turned in his seat, looking directly at Mia. "That was too close," he said. "Who is he?" Mia swallowed hard. "My husband, Daniel. Or at least, the man I married. He's not the same anymore." Keanu studied her, waiting for her to continue. She hesitated, then took a shaky breath. At first, he was charming, kind. The perfect husband, the perfect father. But it changed. Slowly. Little things at first. The way he'd get angry over small things. The way he'd apologize, but never really mean it. Then it got worse. She hugged Ellie closer. Much worse. Keanu didn't need to ask for details. The bruises she was probably hiding, the fear etched into her daughters' faces. It told him everything. Mia squeezed her eyes shut. "I tried to leave before. I even had a plan. But he found us. Every time." Keanu felt a familiar sting of anger. He had seen pain like this before. People who thought they could control others through fear, through manipulation. He despised it. "Why didn't you go to the police?" he asked. Mia let out a hollow laugh. "You think I didn't. I tried. He's connected, Keanu. He's not just some abusive husband. He's dangerous. He has people everywhere. Cops, lawyers, even people I thought were my friends." Her voice cracked. "The system failed me. And if he finds me again, he'll make sure I never try to run again." Keanu clenched his jaw. He had heard stories like this before, but now he was in one. And he wasn't going to sit back and let this family become another statistic. "All right," he said, his voice steady. "Then we do this my way." Mia frowned. "Your way?" Keanu's eyes darkened. "We disappear. For real this time. A plan in motion." Keanu drove cautiously, weaving through back streets and avoiding major roads. He knew how people like Daniel operated. They had eyes everywhere, security cameras, paid informants, police officers who looked the other way. If they wanted to truly escape, they needed to erase their digital footprints. "I know a place," he said, breaking the silence. "We'll go there first." Mia looked hesitant, but nodded. "Okay." The SUV cut through the Los Angeles night, eventually reaching an unassuming motel just outside the city limits. It wasn't glamorous, but it was quiet, isolated. "We'll stay here for the night," Keanu said. "No credit cards, no phones, cash only." Mia hesitated. "But he can track." "He won't," Keanu interrupted. "I've done this before." Mia looked at him, curiosity flashing in her eyes. "You've helped people like us before." Keanu was silent for a moment. Then softly, he said, "I know what it's like to lose everything, to feel like you have nowhere left to run." Mia studied him for a long moment before nodding. She trusted him. Keanu got out of the car first, scanning the parking lot. No sign of the black sedan. Good. He led them inside, keeping his head low as he paid cash for 2 adjoining rooms. Once inside, the exhaustion hit. The weight of the night, the chase, the fear, it all came crashing down. Mia tucked Ellie and Lily into bed, running a gentle hand through their hair as they drifted off to sleep. Keanu sat by the door, keeping watch. "You don't have to stay up," Mia said quietly. Keanu shook his head. "I do." Mia sighed, leaning against the wall. "Why are you doing this, Keanu?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he glanced at the sleeping girls, their faces peaceful despite everything they had been through. Finally, he said, "Because no one helped me when I needed it." Mia looked down, understanding more than she let on. They sat in silence for a while. Then, a soft thud outside the door. Keanu stiffened. Mia's breath hitched. Someone was there. Keanu moved quickly, pressing a finger to his lips, signaling Mia to stay quiet. He grabbed a lamp from the nightstand, silently unscrewing the bulb so the room stayed dark. Another thud, closer this time. Keanu's muscles tensed. He crept toward the door, positioning himself just to the side. He wasn't sure who was out there, but if it was Daniel's men, they weren't getting in without a fight. The doorknob twitched. Keanu held his breath. Then, silence. Whoever it was, they were testing to see if anyone was inside. Keanu waited, his heart pounding. Then, footsteps, slow, methodical, retreated down the hallway. Mia exhaled, her hands trembling. That was him, wasn't it? Keanu's jaw tightened. Maybe. Or one of his men. Mia's face paled. Then he knows we're here. Keanu looked at the sleeping girls. They had no idea how close danger had come. He turned back to Mia, his expression serious. "We leave at sunrise." Mia nodded. Keanu sat back down, gripping the lamp tightly in his hands. He wouldn't sleep that night. He couldn't, because the fight wasn't over. It was just beginning. The road to nowhere. The air inside the motel room was thick with silence, except for the faint breathing of the 2 little girls sleeping soundly. But Keanu Reeves didn't dare close his eyes. He stayed alert, gripping the lamp he had turned into a makeshift weapon. His ears remained sharp, listening for any sound that didn't belong. Outside, the world continued as if nothing was wrong. Cars rushed by in the distance, their headlights briefly illuminating the thin curtains covering the motel window. The occasional muffled voice of another guest echoed through the hallway. But Keanu's focus was on the space just beyond the door, the darkness where danger lurked. Mia sat in the corner, her knees pulled up to her chest. She hadn't slept either. Every so often, she would glance toward her daughters, her expression softening, only to harden again with worry. "You think he's still out there?" she whispered. Keanu exhaled slowly. "Maybe. If not him, then someone working for him." Mia swallowed. "I don't understand how he found us." "I was careful, Keanu. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I paid in cash. I used burner phones. And yet, every single time, he finds me." Keanu frowned. He had been wondering the same thing. Tracking someone so precisely wasn't easy, especially if they were deliberately trying to stay off the grid. Unless. "You said he has connections, right?" Keanu asked. Mia nodded. "Do you think he has people inside banks? Phone companies? Something like that?" Mia hesitated, then nodded again. "Yes. He has access to things that normal people shouldn't. It's like he always knows what I'm thinking before I even do it." Keanu leaned forward. "That means he's not just looking for you randomly. He has a system, patterns, maybe even technology." Mia shivered. "You think he bugged my stuff?" Keanu clenched his jaw. "It's possible." Without another word, he stood up, grabbed her purse, and dumped the contents onto the bed. He sifted through the items: wallet, some cash, tissues, a pack of gum. His fingers stopped when they found the phone. It was a cheap burner phone, just like she said. But when he turned it over, something caught his eye. A tiny, almost imperceptible hole on the back. Keanu's stomach dropped. "This isn't just a burner phone," he said. "It's a trap." Mia's eyes widened. "What?" Keanu grabbed a butter knife from the motel's small kitchenette and carefully pried open the back of the phone. Nestled near the battery was a small, flat device, a GPS tracker. Mia gasped. "Oh my God." Keanu's face darkened. "That's how he's been finding you." Mia covered her mouth with both hands, horror spreading across her face. I bought that phone in cash. It wasn't supposed to be traceable." Keanu nodded grimly. "He must have swapped it before you even realized. Maybe he had someone watching the store. Maybe he has access to the supplier. Either way, he's been following you this whole time." Mia's breath quickened. "What do we do now?" Keanu didn't hesitate. He grabbed the phone, snapped it in half, and yanked out the battery. Then he went to his own phone and turned it off. "We leave. Now." The escape plan. Dawn had barely begun to break when Keanu, Mia, and the girls slipped out of the motel. The sky was a deep shade of purple, tinged with hints of orange on the horizon. The air was crisp and still. Keanu led them to his SUV, scanning the parking lot for anything suspicious. He had parked in a corner where the security cameras wouldn't get a good angle on them. It wasn't a perfect hiding spot, but it had bought them enough time to figure out their next move. "Get in," he said, keeping his voice low. Mia bundled the girls into the back seat. Lily was awake now, groggy and confused. "Mom, where are we going?" Mia forced a smile. "Somewhere safe, sweetie." Keanu slid into the driver's seat and started the engine. He pulled out onto the road, taking a different route than the one they came in on. If Daniel had someone watching the motel, they wouldn't take the main highway. "We can't just keep running forever," Mia murmured from the passenger seat. Keanu nodded. "We won't, but we need to be smart about this. Where are we going?" Keanu tightened his grip on the wheel. "Someplace he won't expect." Mia stared at him. "You have somewhere in mind, don't you?" He nodded. "A friend. Someone who knows how to disappear." Mia's eyes narrowed. "Who?" Keanu hesitated for only a second before answering. "A guy named John." Mia frowned. "John who?" Keanu smirked slightly. "Let's just say he doesn't use last names. A friend in the shadows." After hours of driving, Keanu finally pulled into a remote area. Dense trees surrounded a small, secluded cabin. The road leading up to it was barely visible, covered in overgrown brush. If you didn't know it was there, you'd drive right past it. Keanu parked the SUV and turned to Mia. "Stay in the car with the girls. Let me talk to him first. Maya looked nervous, but nodded. Keanu stepped out and approached the cabin, knocking 3 times in a distinct rhythm. For a moment, there was silence. Then, the door creaked open. A man in his late 50s stood there, his sharp blue eyes scanning Keanu from head to toe. He had a rugged look, gray stubble, strong jawline, and the kind of expression that suggested he had seen more than his fair share of trouble. "Well, well," the man said, folding his arms. "Didn't think I'd be seeing you again." Keanu smirked. "Miss me?" The man grunted. "Depends. Are you bringing trouble?" Keanu glanced back at the SUV, where Mia and the girls sat anxiously. He turned back to the man and said, "Something like that." The man sighed. "You always did have a soft spot for lost causes." Keanu's expression darkened. "They're not lost. They just need help." The man studied him for a long moment before nodding. "All right, bring them in." Keanu exhaled in relief. He turned and motioned for Mia and the girls to follow. As they stepped into the cabin, Mia hesitated. "Who is this guy?" Keanu looked at her and said simply, "The only person who can make you and your daughters disappear for good." Mia swallowed hard, glancing at her sleeping daughters. The weight of the moment hit her like a tidal wave. This was it. Their last chance. No more running. No more fear. Only one question remained. Would it be enough? Ghosts of the past. The inside of the cabin smelled of aged wood and old tobacco, with a faint trace of gun oil lingering in the air. The furniture was minimal, just a worn-out couch, a battered wooden table, and a wall lined with shelves stacked with books, ammunition boxes, and odd trinkets from places long forgotten. The man standing in front of them wasn't the kind of person you found in a phone book. Mia held her daughters close, her eyes darting around the unfamiliar space. "Who is this?" she asked in a whisper. Keanu exhaled, rubbing the back of his neck. "John's an old friend. The kind of friend who knows how to make people disappear." John leaned against the table, his piercing blue eyes never leaving Mia. He looked her over, then glanced at the 2 sleeping girls. His face softened slightly, but only slightly. "Trouble?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. Keanu nodded. "The worst kind." John sighed. "All right, tell me everything." The man who couldn't be escaped. Mia sat down, gripping the edge of the couch like she was afraid it would disappear from under her. "His name is Daniel. He's my husband." The words felt bitter on her tongue. Or was. "I tried to leave him, but he has people everywhere. No matter where I go, no matter how careful I am, he finds me." John tapped his fingers against the wooden table, considering. "You said he has people. What kind of people?" "Cops. Lawyers. Even people I thought were my friends." Maya swallowed hard. "And he has money. Lots of it." John's jaw tightened. "Money makes people do stupid things." Keanu folded his arms. She had a tracker in her burner phone. He planted it before she even knew. John nodded, as if that didn't surprise him. "He's not just looking for you. He's hunting you." He turned toward Keanu. "And now, you're in it too." Keanu didn't flinch. "I know." John studied him. "You always did have a habit of picking fights with people you shouldn't." Keanu gave a small smirk. "Yeah, well, some fights are worth it." John grunted, then turned back to Mia. "All right, you want to disappear. I can make that happen, but you have to listen to everything I say. No more mistakes." Mia nodded quickly. "I'll do anything." John sighed and walked over to a metal cabinet. He pulled out a large black duffel bag and tossed it onto the table. When he unzipped it, Mia's eyes widened. Inside were stacks of passports, IDs, burner phones, and rolls of cash. Keanu let out a low whistle. "You've been busy." John smirked. "Insurance policy." Mia's hands trembled as she reached for one of the passports. "This is fake." John shrugged. Let's just say it's real enough to get you across any border. Mia swallowed. And where exactly are we going? John leaned forward. That depends. You want to run, or do you want to end this? Keanu's expression darkened. Ended how? John's eyes flicked toward Mia. The only way a man like Daniel stops looking for you is if he has a reason to stop. Mia's breath caught. You mean? John didn't say anything, but the weight of his words settled over the room. Keanu looked at Mia. Your call. For a long time, she didn't say anything. Then, she looked down at her daughters, their small bodies curled up on the couch, their faces peaceful. She exhaled sharply. I don't want to run anymore. John nodded slowly. Then let's make sure he never finds you again. The bait. The plan was simple. Daniel had been tracking Mia for months, always one step behind. But if they could turn that against him, if they could control the situation instead of reacting to it, then they had a chance. He's expecting you to run, John said. So we make him think he's winning. Keanu folded his arms. How? John smirked. We let him find you. Mia's stomach twisted. That's insane. No, it's smart, John corrected. Right now, he has the advantage because he's calling the shots. We flip that. We give him just enough to draw him in. Then we take him out. Mia's throat tightened. Take him out. John's eyes darkened. For good. Keanu didn't react. He had been in enough situations to know when a fight was unavoidable. And Daniel had made it clear. This wasn't going to stop unless someone made it stop. Mia hesitated. What if he brings more men? John smirked. Then we make sure they never walk away either. Setting the trap. The bait was set. Mia's old phone had been destroyed. But John had another trick up his sleeve. He had a way to make it look like Mia had checked into another motel, just far enough away to make Daniel believe she had made a mistake. All we need is for him to take the bait, John said. Keanu sat next to Mia, watching her closely. Are you sure about this? She looked at him, her eyes filled with determination. I have to be. Keanu nodded. Then let's finish this. The reckoning. Hours passed. Then, just before midnight, John's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen and smirked. He took the bait. Mia's heart pounded. He's coming. John nodded. With company. Keanu rolled his shoulders. Then let's welcome him properly. Outside, the wind howled against the trees. The night felt heavier, as if it knew what was coming. Keanu turned to Mia. Stay here with the girls. No matter what happens, don't come out. Mia swallowed hard, nodding. John checked his gun, then looked at Keanu. Ready? Keanu exhaled slowly. Yeah. John grinned. Then let's end this. The final stand. The air outside was thick with tension. The cold wind whispered through the trees surrounding the remote cabin, sending leaves rustling like quiet warnings in the dark. Inside, Keanu Reeves stood near the front door, his muscles tense, his mind focused. John was across the room, calmly loading his gun with the ease of a man who had done this far too many times before. The old wooden table between them held an assortment of weapons, nothing excessive, but enough to get the job done. Mia sat on the couch, clutching her daughters, her face pale but set with determination. When he gets here, Keanu said, his voice low, I want you to stay put, no matter what happens. Mia nodded but didn't speak. Her fingers curled protectively around Ellie and Lily, who were still half asleep, unaware of the storm about to break outside. John smirked. It's been a while since I had a proper showdown. Keanu shot him a look. Let's make sure it's our last. John chuckled. Agreed. The plan was simple. Lure Daniel in, control the situation, and end the nightmare once and for all. But simple didn't mean easy. The arrival. Headlights appeared in the distance, cutting through the night like piercing eyes. A single black SUV rolled up the dirt path leading to the cabin, its tires crunching against gravel. Then another vehicle, a sleek, dark sedan, followed closely behind. Mia's breath hitched. That's him. Keanu glanced at John. How many men do you think? John peered through the narrow gap in the curtain. 4, maybe 5. Definitely armed. Keanu exhaled slowly. We stick to the plan. John nodded. Let's get to work. The first move. The black SUV came to a stop just outside the cabin. The engine idled for a moment before the driver's door opened. A man stepped out. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing an expensive black suit despite the wilderness around him. Daniel. He moved with a deliberate slowness, as if savoring the moment. His face was sharp, his eyes dark and unreadable. Even in the dim light, Mia could see the same cruel smirk she had seen too many times before. 2 more men stepped out of the second car, flanking him like shadows. A 4th man lingered by the SUV, scanning the area. John scoffed. 4 guys and they think that's enough. Insulting. Keanu didn't take his eyes off Daniel. Let's not underestimate them. Daniel took a few steps forward and called out, his voice smooth, controlled. Mia. Mia stiffened but didn't answer. Daniel sighed dramatically. Come on now. You didn't really think you could hide from me, did you? Keanu felt the anger coil in his chest. This man didn't sound like someone looking for his wife and children. He sounded like a predator amused by the chase. Daniel took another step forward. Let's not make this messy. Just come with me. You and the girls. We can put all of this behind us. Keanu exchanged a glance with John. John grinned. Showtime. The trap closes. Before Daniel could take another step, John moved. A loud bang echoed through the night as he fired a warning shot at the ground near Daniel's feet. Daniel froze. His men immediately drew their weapons. Keanu stepped forward, keeping his voice steady. You're not taking them. Daniel's eyes flickered with amusement. Keanu Reeves, standing in my way. That's unexpected. Keanu didn't blink. Turn around. Leave. While you still can. Daniel laughed. Oh, that's adorable. You think this is your fight. You have no idea who you're dealing with. John smirked. That's funny. We were just about to say the same thing. Before Daniel could react, Keanu moved. The fight begins. Keanu lunged forward, grabbing the closest of Daniel's men and twisting his arm back in one fluid motion. The man grunted in pain as Keanu disarmed him and slammed him to the ground. A second man raised his gun, but before he could fire, John took him out with a clean shot to the leg. The man crumpled with a scream, clutching his knee. Daniel's smirk disappeared. Kill them. The last remaining bodyguard aimed at Keanu, but Keanu was faster. He kicked the man's gun aside and delivered a hard punch to his ribs, followed by a brutal elbow strike to the jaw. The man staggered and fell, unconscious. Daniel remained standing, watching the scene unfold with an expression of mild annoyance. Keanu straightened, his chest rising and falling with controlled breaths. You're alone now, Daniel. Daniel chuckled, slow and deliberate. You really think this is over? Keanu narrowed his eyes. No, but you're about to. Daniel moved fast, faster than Keanu expected. He lunged, swinging a blade from his coat, aiming straight for Keanu's ribs. Keanu barely dodged in time, twisting to avoid the fatal strike. The knife grazed his hoodie, slicing through the fabric. Keanu retaliated with a sharp kick to Daniel's wrist, knocking the knife from his hand. But Daniel was relentless. He swung a fist, landing a brutal punch against Keanu's jaw. Keanu staggered back, but didn't fall. John raised his gun, but Daniel was already reaching into his jacket for another weapon. Then, a single shot rang out. Daniel froze. His breath hitched. He looked down. A red stain spread across his crisp white shirt. He turned, disbelief in his eyes, searching for the source of the gunfire. Maya stood in the doorway, her hands trembling as she held John's spare pistol. For the first time, Daniel's expression showed something other than arrogance. He looked afraid. "Mia," he whispered. She took a step forward, her voice shaking. "You don't get to hurt us anymore." Daniel swayed, then collapsed to his knees. His eyes darted around wildly, as if searching for a way out. But there was none. John lowered his gun. Hell of a shot. Mia exhaled sharply, her entire body trembling. The gun slipped from her fingers and clattered onto the wooden porch. Keanu stepped forward and looked down at Daniel. "It's over." Daniel gasped for breath, his strength fading fast. He tried to speak, but no words came. Then, with one last, ragged breath, he went still. Silence. Mia covered her mouth, her shoulders shaking. Lily and Ellie stirred inside, unaware that the nightmare had just ended. Keanu turned to John. "We clean this up, then we disappear." John nodded. Agreed. Keanu looked at Mia. She was staring at Daniel's lifeless body, her expression unreadable. Then, slowly, she exhaled. And for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel afraid anymore. A new beginning. The silence after Daniel's last breath was heavier than anything Mia had ever known. It was the silence of finality, of an ending so absolute that it left an emptiness in its wake. She didn't know how long she stood there, staring at his lifeless body on the ground. Her hands trembled, her heart pounded. And yet, there was no regret, only relief, a deep, aching relief that threatened to buckle her knees. Keanu Reeves watched her carefully, standing by her side, his presence solid and steady. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. He understood. Some battles, some wounds, some scars could only be processed in silence. John, ever practical, was already moving. He crouched beside Daniel's body, checking for a pulse he knew wasn't there. Then, with a satisfied grunt, he stood. Well, that's one problem solved. Mia let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. What now? John glanced at Keanu. "We make sure no one comes looking." Keanu nodded. "We clean this up." Mia's stomach turned at the implication. She had never imagined she would be part of something like this. But then again, she had never imagined a life where she would have to run from the man who once claimed to love her. Keanu touched her shoulder gently. "You don't have to be part of this." Mia met his gaze. "Yes, I do." Keanu nodded. He understood. This wasn't just about survival. It was about reclaiming her life, about making sure she and her daughters were never hunted again. John motioned toward the body. "Let's move him before someone gets curious." Keanu and John worked quickly, moving Daniel's body to the trunk of his own car. They wiped down the scene, removing any trace of what had happened. The men Daniel had brought were either unconscious or too injured to fight back. John secured them, tying their hands and making sure they wouldn't be a problem anytime soon. Mia stood on the porch, watching as Keanu and John worked with quiet efficiency. She felt lighter. The weight of fear, of constantly looking over her shoulder, was beginning to lift. Inside the cabin, Lily and Ellie were still asleep. They didn't know that the man who had haunted their lives was gone forever. Mia closed her eyes and whispered, "It's over." For the first time, it felt true. A life erased. By the time the sun began to rise, Daniel's car was gone, and with it, any trace of him. John had taken care of it. He didn't say where, and Mia didn't ask. She sat at the small kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a cup of coffee. The warmth seeped into her fingers, grounding her. Across from her, Keanu leaned back in his chair, watching her carefully. "You okay?" he asked. Mia exhaled. "I don't know. I think so." Keanu nodded. "It takes time." John entered the room, tossing a folder onto the table. "We need to talk about your next move." Mia frowned. "Next move?" John gestured to the folder. "New identities, new lives. You can't just go back to who you were before." Mia hesitated. "But it's over." John raised an eyebrow. "Is it? Because Daniel had a lot of people on his payroll. Some of them won't care that he's dead. Some of them might come looking for answers. Maya's stomach twisted. So we're still not safe. Keanu leaned forward. You will be. But only if you disappear for good. Mia opened the folder. Inside were passports, birth certificates, and IDs. All fake, but real enough to hold up under scrutiny. A new name stared back at her. Emily Carter. A new identity. A new life. Mia ran her fingers over the name. This doesn't feel real. John shrugged. It will. She looked up at Keanu. What about you? Keanu hesitated. I'll stay off the radar for a while. Make sure no one comes after you. Mia swallowed. You don't have to do that. Keanu smiled slightly. I know. For a long moment, they just sat there. No words, just understanding. Then Lily's sleepy voice interrupted the quiet. Mom. Mia turned to see her daughter rubbing her eyes. Ellie still curled up beside her. Mia smiled. Hey, sweetie. Lily yawned and shuffled closer. Are we going home now? Mia's heart clenched. She reached out, smoothing Lily's hair. We're going somewhere new, somewhere safe. Lily blinked sleepily. Okay. Mia's throat tightened. She glanced at Keanu, then back at her daughters. This was it, their chance at a fresh start. She looked back at John. How do we do this? John nodded. I have a contact who can get you across the border. From there, you'll have a clean slate. Mia took a deep breath. She looked at Lily and Ellie, then at Keanu. She reached for his hand. Thank you. Keanu squeezed her fingers gently. You don't owe me anything. She smiled, a small, grateful smile. I owe you everything. Keanu shook his head. Just be happy. That's all I want. Mia wiped away a tear before it could fall. I will. She turned to John. Let's go. A new dawn. Hours later, Mia drove down a long, empty road, her daughters sleeping peacefully in the back seat. A new life awaited them. A life without fear. She glanced in the rearview mirror, catching a glimpse of Keanu standing by the roadside, watching them leave. She didn't stop. She couldn't. But as the road stretched before her, endless and full of possibility, she whispered under her breath, Thank you. And for the first time in years, she truly believed the words.